Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 1st. Happy New Year's to everybody out there across Pacific Northwest. I am in a car today because I'm in Hilo, Hawaii, and I've been doing the briefings out for the last few days, but I should be back on January 3rd, so the briefing should be from the office there on January 3rd here. But yeah, a couple more days out here, and then I'll be home. Helps me keep up on some of the practice on using the tablet, because when I go on extended storm chasing periods, I still like to continue to do the videos for the Pacific Northwest Weather Watch page and the California Weather Watch page. So anyway, let's jump into things here. You can see the next storm system out over the ocean here, and this one is probably going to send most of its energy into California, but it's going to bring some snowfall and some precipitation here across some of the Pacific Northwest. We'll look at some of those details here, and then we're going to be dealing with a pretty good pattern change here across much of the western USA, much below. Actually, we're going to drop the temperature down from where they have been here across much of the region. So we'll take a look at that pattern change incoming here as well. We'll look at some of the models and what they have to say about that. But check it out, the warmest December ever for SeaTac, for Olympia, and for Quileute. And look at Quileute, just absolutely shattered. I mean, these are mean temperatures here. This is just an incredible amount. 3.5 degrees difference here. You can see at Seattle, that's usually how you beat records. You just kind of barely beat them there. But look at Quileute, just an amazing 48 degree mean daily temperature here for December. Just incredible there. Anyway, and this was put out this morning here by the National Weather Service, Seattle. Yeah, so very warm December, but that is likely to change here as we go through some of January, at least the first half of it. Looks like we are going to be probably below normal here as we get a big pattern change rolling in. And I wanted to point this out as well. We got advisory and special weather statements removed in 2024 from the National Weather Service. So I won't go into too much detail about that yet. I want to see exactly how they do it. We'll wait for some examples because they're going to use some plain language information a bit more. And we'll wait to see how that comes out when we start to get some of these storms down into the area and see how this plays out. Just wanted to give you a heads up there, though. Take a look at the visible satellite imagery. You can see some of that dense fog across eastern Washington, probably in the Willamette Valley here, and breaking out in a few areas here as well. Some of western Washington, you can kind of see it bubbling around here. But if you want to get out away from that fog, you go off in the higher terrain. Look at Mount Rainier, nice glorious sunshine there. And once you get above some of that surface inversion out there. Taking a look here at the composite reflectivity of the North American models as this morning's run. This is what the Doppler radar should look like as we go through the next couple of days. And you can see some of that precipitation approaching the Oregon coast as we go through late tonight into early tomorrow morning, spreading inland here a bit here, but it's not going to be too crazy. You can see the best dynamics again are going to be mainly sent down into California, but some of southwest Oregon here will be getting some decent precipitation amounts, maybe a thunderstorm even out of that as well, as you continue to see that kind of pinwheel and spin and push off to the east here as we go through Wednesday afternoon. Now we're going to take a look at the GFS. This is this morning's run, hot off the presses, the 12Z run. You can see BC and Washington here. This is that next storm system off our coastline here. You can see it spinning, and again, staying offshore here. Best dynamics probably for California here, but it does bring some mountain snow out there. Beggars can't be choosers. We need to take what we can get. However, things look a little bit promising in the extended forecast, which we'll take a look at here in a moment. But if I put this into motion, the GFS and actually the European at times were showing a very potent storm. The European has backed off a little bit here, but the GFS continues to show it on the most recent run, a very compact low with a very powerful pressure gradient. These storms do happen from time to time here, but it's still off in fantasy land, even though it is only 102 hours out right now. We're still watching it, but the European has kind of been waffling back and forth on if that system is going to develop to that degree of strength, I should say. Now, taking a look at the wider view of things here, we've got Alaska. You can see BC and Washington, Oregon here. There would be Montana. We're looking at 5,000 feet, 850 millibars, and we have a pathetic reservoir of cold air above the northern hemisphere right now, and it's actually the lowest since 1950 and probably much longer than that. But anyway, I'm going to put this into motion, and you can see that as we go on in towards the weekend, we're going to get some colder air arriving across the Gulf of Alaska here and driving down the west coast North America. And you can see we need this colder air to get out over western BC to try to get snow into southwest BC or western Washington or Oregon. We really need this colder air to get entrenched back down into the area here. And the models want to hint at it a little bit here, but it's not looking too good for lower elevation snowfall. And then you can kind of see this polar low pull away and remain over the Hudson Bay area here. But if things lined up just right with this colder air and you brought a system in, you could bring some lower elevation snowfall potentially here over the next week to 10 days. We'll see how that goes. We're going to break down those systems one at a time. But yeah, you can see this cold air just really does not set up shop here across British Columbia here. It looks like in the next 10 days on the GFS. But if you scroll up into the future a little bit more here, the model's been hinting at maybe some more cold air driving down into BC, but this is so far off in fantasy land right now that it's not even really worth getting too caught up in. It's just something we want to keep in the back of our mind and see if that trends, and plenty of time to try to get some agreement between the European and the GFS on if something like that is actually going to happen. But you can see that the extended runs do show better colder air amounts across a lot of Canada there as we go on in through mid-January. Now, taking a look at the European, this is the 12Z run as well. There goes our storm system here. Pretty good model agreement. And again, getting some mountain snow with that. But again, the best dynamics down into California. And then we bring another kind of decaying frontal system here, as you see, as we go through the day Thursday. And then the European, I believe, was showing that little impulse here. I think that was part of that system that was spinning up here, but it may actually be this one as well. But you can see it's not quite as potent as what the GFS was saying. But there is windstorm potential with that if things line up just right, and just something we'll be watching here over the next couple of days. But you can see a pretty potent system in its own right here as we go in towards the end of this upcoming week here and towards the weekend. And that could be a nice mountain snowmaker here, as well as this very cold air mass sets up shop here across much of the western USA, and then additional frontal systems, of course, would come after that. We'll worry about that as we get a little bit closer. Here's total snow, Kuchera ratio, and Kuchera ratio tries to take into account lower levels of the atmosphere's temperature here. So sometimes it's more valuable than 10-to-1 ratio, but a lot of times it's really not. But anyway, I'm showing it anyway, and you can see the potential for some snow as we go on in through the end of the week. We've got a couple rounds potentially coming in here. So hopefully this pattern change, we can build up some of that snowpack here across the higher terrain of the Cascades of Washington, the Rocky Mountains as well, because we are below average so far this year, and we really need some help on that front. But yeah, that pattern change should help out. It's definitely not going to be as above average as it was for the month of December. And looking at again here, we looked at this yesterday. This is 500 millibar heights, and you really want things below the 530 line. You want about 528 or lower to get snowfall. And you can see the European flirts with a couple of areas of some colder air getting in here, but not really that favorable for lower elevation snowfall. And then you look off into Fantasyland, and you can see the control run really drops us down into the ice box here. But it's so far out, and it's such an outlier. The deterministic is really among the most extreme outliers of the ensemble, and you can see the ensemble mean right here. So it's nothing even really to get too concerned about just yet. Here's the GFS. It does show, again, some of these shots of cold air coming down, but not really that favorable for lower elevation snowfall into the Seattle area. But if things line up just right, we could still pull it off. We'll break that down as we get closer. Right now, it's not looking extremely likely. And this is Bellingham International Airport. Just kind of showing you the snow plume. It does show if things line up just right, we could get a little bit of wet snowfall down to some of the lower elevations. And this would be for Seattle. The control run actually on the GFS not showing anything, but the mean actually showing a little bit here. And you can kind of see how some of these ensemble runs hinting at the potential for some snow if things lined up just right. So looking at percent of average precipitation, this is for the entire month of December now here as well. So you can see Montana was really dry here. A lot of Idaho, some of Oregon as well, but a lot of Western Washington, some of Western Oregon is actually above average precipitation here. We started off pretty strong through December. And again, the record warmth for a lot of areas here across much of the West, but this is going to be flipping here as we go on into the first half of January. We're going to go through that pattern change here, so that's a good thing to see. Here's the 6 to 10 day. You can see again the west really, the southwest is actually really bullseye here, but we do have the above average signal here across Pacific Northwest, and then much of the west as we go through the mid-January portion. And there's that 8 to 14 days. You can see the Climate Prediction Center picking up on this pattern change for much of the west as well. And this is last night's European. I just want to show this one for the fantasy aspect of it here. Let's see if we can get this. The internet connection's been very slow today. I'm going to scroll way off into the future here. And the models continue to show these polar lobes trying to reach down and get us. Look at this one here. and kind of see how this might actually be favorable for some lower elevation snowfall. But it's so far out into fantasy land that it's really does not have any kind of value to it for our forecasting just yet. So that's just something we'll be watching here over the next few days and see if that has any realism to it. This is also looking at some of the European ensemble members have been showing potential for wind here for the Pacific Northwest as well. But right now, nothing is coming into view as far as being a major windstorm just yet. We'll continue to watch that over the next few days because, as I showed you, that GFS had that power-packed low right into Northwest Oregon here. So this is something to watch here right now, but still very poor model agreement on that occurring just yet. But anyway, yeah, I should be back on January 3rd. I'm feeling a little bit better, but man, this has been a vicious cold. I think I actually had the flu. I tested negative for COVID. So yeah, glad to finally be bouncing back a little bit here, but it's day 6 and I can still feel a little bit of the body ache of that virus, whatever it was. It's just a vicious, mean thing. So yeah, I spent a lot of my vacation, I fought through it and I still did things that I normally would when I come out here. But yeah, hopefully my next trip out here I can avoid getting sick, and I hope you guys are doing better as well. I see a lot of comments about people getting bugs and getting the crud and whatnot as well too. I guess that's what happens. We suppressed the flu virus pretty good over the last few years. And I kind of knew when the flu came back, it would kind of hit me pretty hard. So I kind of have a hunch that it was probably the flu, pretty vicious thing here going on day 6 now. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. I'll be back in a couple days and we'll continue to watch that extended forecast. Hopefully this pattern change can bring us some nice mountain snow. And I'm always hoping for lowland snow. So maybe we'll get really lucky here as we go through January at some point. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.